The second stage of critically evaluating sources is looking at topic coverage. That is, how detailed is your source? Another way of putting this is, how deep does it go? In-depth coverage is when an article is long with a narrow topic. It provides a study with information on funding, samples, and the methods of research. Broad or shallow coverage is when the article is too short considering its broad topic. That means, can you imagine a 2-page article on the causes of alcoholism? These kinds of shallow coverage articles also tend to have a list of things. The most common is a list of bulletin points or studies that have been taken place. This is similar to a literature review. A literature review by itself is not a bad thing, but sometimes that is all the source is. The third type of coverage is the least deep or detailed in scope. It is anecdotal coverage. This is when the article is a specific example of an issue or problem, or simply the reporting of an event. Now, for in-depth coverage, you should use it because it provides evidence and it may further narrow down your topic. You might need other viewpoints depending on the assignment, like a persuasive paper, but in general, deep coverage is the best. Broad and shallow coverage, it doesn't provide evidence, and you should not use it. You could use it as an overview of a topic or to follow references if it's a literature review. Anecdotal coverage, you can use it, but it's not usually a starting point to research. It's like the end thing that you see, or anecdotes that you collect along the way to either be persuasive or to humanize a very factual or statistical essay. So just to look at some examples, I found for in-depth coverage the article called Family Bonding and Adolescent Alcohol Abuse, published by Oxford Journal of Alcoholism and Addiction. Survey results shown in the article showed that strong family bonds can reduce adolescent alcoholism. Let's just show you, I just want to show you the actual article. Family bonding and adolescent alcohol use, moderating effect of living with excessive drinking parents. Now, you can see by the title, it's a very narrow topic. How long is it? 1, 2, 3. It's hard to tell because it's HTML. The actual article is 464 to 471, so 7 pages long. 7 pages long with a very specific topic. And if you look at the abstract, you'll know that there's a study right away, that it is not just a literature review. It is fine if there is a literature review, but you want literature review combined with a study. That is the best type of one. For broad and shallow coverage, there are many examples of this. If you just Google the term causes of alcoholism, you will get many examples. Here's a .com example. The topic header for the article is way too broad. Causes of alcoholism. As you can see, there is no reference to research in this, really. Number one sign that it's not good. The subheaders, gender, age, DNA and family history, brain drain. If you just think about it for a minute, these subheaders are way too broad for one paragraph. So you know right away this is skimpy coverage, no research at all. It is also a .com site. There's an ads by Google, which all indicate something is not good about that. Another .com example. About.com, alcoholism, risk factors, family history of alcoholism, disinhibition. Now that's a little bit narrower. leads to less inhibition to drink in the future. And there are studies mentioned and quotes from experts. Prior research has shown, if you just scan the topic sentence of paragraphs, it will show you something. It's a quote, though. It's not actual prior research. It's not even a literature review at that point. It's just a quote from a professor at Indiana University. Further quotes. No mention. There's no abstract really. There's an introductory sentence. That's all. Everyone with a family history of alcoholism is at risk, according to research at the Behavioral Sciences Laboratories. In a way, that's a little anecdotal, too, at one laboratory. And look at the subheaders: high-risk characteristics, working memory deficits. So it is narrow in the sense that it's going after a specific aspect of alcoholism, and it reports on one study, but it would be better to just go find the original study, not to find secondhand reporting of it. Here's another example. This is from Iowa University Clinics. It seems credible, but it doesn't have much substance. It is a .com site, too. And if you just look at it, alcohol, how much is too much? And then they list. This is one of the typical characteristics of skimpy articles and sources, is they just list without any kind of analysis or additional studies. It's just a list. And this one doesn't even have research. But I show you that one in particular because it isn't always obvious. It's university clinics, so you might assume it is credible and it would have some evidence of studies. And here's another one, .org site, Alcoholism Support, Causes of Alcoholism. Again, broad headers. No research in this one at all. And one last one, just to show you a literature review by a reputable source, but it's still just a literature review. It's a chapter of a book edited by Ruth Ings, who is the professor, applied sciences professor at Indiana University. Now this one is a typical literature review. Let me just read. After making a broad case for the historical importance of studying environment in the etiology of alcoholism and related problems, this chapter describes developments in alcohol research during the 1980s. As a prelude to focusing upon the environmental aspects of family history of alcoholism as a risk factor for alcoholic disorders. So this is the topic narrow? Environmental basis for alcoholic disorders, future prospects. Yes, it's narrower than just causes of alcoholism. It's a reputable source, but it is still just a literature review, so you won't get any kind of details of the studies. You'll just get, this is a typical sign of a literature review right here. A giant parentheses. Let's see if I can get my hands around this. A giant parentheses with dates for all of these people conducted studies. Now you could use this kind of source, go at the end, and if they list it, you could go look up the references and go find the original studies and the original analysis from your local library, your university library. But just to compare that, I just want to go back to the specific one. This is the specific study. It has in-depth coverage. It has a specific study. So this is a sign of what you want. It has methods of a study, and it has results, and it has conclusions. None of that would be present in a literature review. Now, just as another example of anecdotal coverage, this is specific examples of the reporting of an event. Mary Carr, alcoholic mother, recalls shame of addiction. This is a specific case of a famous author named Mary Carr, who you may have read of. Whenever you have to push skip this ad, by the way, it's not usually a good sign to start off with. That means it's a .com site. Best-selling poet and author Mary Carr knows all too well the treacherous cycle that faces every alcoholic mother. And then she goes on to describe it. And she wrote a memoir about it. So that's just anecdotal. You could use the example if you wanted to liven up your article. But otherwise it's not going to be very useful. I just want to show you one way to know the scope of something. To know the scope or coverage in an article searching the library database, you would go to, let's go to psychology again. Psych articles, which is the full text for psychological related articles. The main way that you tell coverage on a library database is by looking at the citations. Children of alcoholics. We already searched on the thesaurus to find those subject terms. Now all you'll really see is a citation. You can look at page options. Gives you you can also look at the abstract if you push page options, and that'll allow you to look at every article with the abstract there, so you don't have to keep clicking back and forth. And that's useful if you only have like 10 to 20 articles or slightly above that. Now, characterizing life stressors of children of alcoholic parents. We're not going to run across a lot of broad topics with this. This is 819 to 832. So 13 pages with a very short topic area. Parental drinking as a risk factor for children's maladjustment. And this one doesn't even have, oh, there it is, 4 pages long. There's an indication that maybe this is not the best article. It does not provide the most in-depth coverage. You might also, when you look at citations, look at the year if you're doing a social sciences or scientific research paper, because you're looking for the most current information, and that's one thing. And you can look at that first as a way of skipping over articles, skimming them quicker. You can look at date and the number of pages and the title and the scope of the article right off the bat, so you can get rid of a lot of entries that way. And that's about it for evaluating topic coverage.